Hey, what's up? It's Comic95, the Savior. So for this video, I want to have another kind of like a real talk conversation with you guys. As the title kind of alludes to, I want to also give a disclaimer or whatever you want to call it and make it very clear to you guys that this is me talking to you as a friend, and I'm not giving you necessarily the best advice, but I'm trying my best to give you honest advice and telling you what is possible. This is not the best way to come to Japan. I do not recommend coming to Japan this way, but as I said before, I would be a liar if I tried to pretend like I had everything perfectly set up and that, I was striving while I was here. I was struggling up until recently, you guys. I've had on and off times where I was practically homeless being here. So to avoid making this video too long, I'm going to try to just get straight to the point and be honest. You do not have to have $10,000 or more to come to Japan. It is definitely really nice to have, but it is not a need. I've kind of already said this before, but I wanted to make just one video that specifically talks about the truth, about what's needed to come here. This is also, something that you want to think about again, what I'm saying, because you have to know your own limits, know what, your personality is like, etc. Now, in order to survive in Japan for a year plus, you are definitely going to need more than $10,000. But when you first arrive here, you definitely do not need to have 10K. It is actually extremely easy to find a job in Japan, especially if you are a native English speaker. If you are not a native speaker, what I'm saying in this video is not really going to apply to you. You can still listen, you can get lucky and land employment with ease. But again, I'm speaking from a native speaker perspective, and I'm also talking from personal experience. I have seen that people that are not native speakers, even if they speak at a native level, even if they have dual citizenship, whatever the case is, depending on their appearance, where they went to school, etc., those things kind of determine the easiness of them finding a job. So anyway, this might apply to you, but again, I'm speaking for Americans mostly. If you're from the UK, Australia, New Zealand, same rules apply to you pretty much. So long story short, the reason why you don't need that is more than likely if you want to come to Japan and you're not rich, you're struggling, your family, you don't come from money, etc., which is probably why you came across my videos because you can't afford it, you probably already qualify for financial aid. You can indeed use financial aid as well as take out student loans in order to cover all of your expenses here in Japan, not just your tuition, but your housing, transportation, food, etc. Now if you're thinking, oh, my parents' credit is too bad, blah, 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 don't worry about your credit, don't worry about your parents, etc. You can also take out a Parent Plus loan, which doesn't really go based off of having good or perfect credit per se, but it's hard to explain. I don't want to give you guys wrong information. Just look into that. Ask your financial aid advisor about that. More than likely one of, if not both of your parents can actually help you out with that. And worst case scenario, if they cannot, depending on your age and your educational background, you can take out a plus loan, which is basically a government student loan on your own. You do not need to have a high credit score like how you normally would for a company such as Sallie Mae, now known as Navient, which is actually where I got my loan from anyway, even although Sallie Mae rejected me. But off of that, TMI, my point is that you don't really want to, how can I put it, put all of your focus on I have to have $10,000, because you don't. Do you want to have it? Yes. If it's possible, yes, you do want to have it. You want to have more than that, because if you come to Japan and you do not have that much money, because if for any reason you do come to Japan and you do have trouble finding a job and you do run out of money, you're going to be screwed. Once again, if you're lucky, fortunate, you have friends, family, etc. that are willing to send you money, you have a system set up to receive money, etc., you can do just fine. But if that's not you, you definitely want to make sure you have enough money, because you do not want to be homeless here in Japan. You don't want to get deported. You don't want to be embarrassed and out in the street and desperately doing stuff for money that you shouldn't be doing. So again, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. Use your own brain. Use wisdom here, you guys. I'm simply telling you that you don't need it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't get it or shouldn't have it before you come. The other thing too is to keep in mind, If you're in school, you can also do things like work-study program. You can legally work part-time. So you'll be able to make money to basically cover your rent and day-to-day expenses. This doesn't seem doable if you're thinking with an American mind, but this is Japan, not America. Your rent here is dirt cheap in comparison to the US, and a lot of people, in fact I would say most students here live by themselves and not with their parents, and they pay their own rent, and they work part-time while also studying in school. Whereas the US is kind of the opposite. Most people either still live at home with their parents and they commute back and forth to their school, or they live on campus, with housing that's being paid by that. If you're not already familiar with how Japan works, dorms are not a thing in Japan. So either you live with your parents or you live alone. There's some rare, weird schools out there that do offer dorms, but that's an extremely rare thing, and share houses are not a common thing for Japanese people. They're generally something that only foreigners use. So, a share house can work as a dorm for you if you're living in a major city like Tokyo and you want to save on your rent. Otherwise, if you're living outside of Tokyo, you can get an entire apartment by yourself for under $600. You can easily get one for like $350 to $450 and have a nice spacious place by Japanese standards. So do not worry so much about your expenses. Your goal is to get your foot in the door. Once you have that student visa, if you're a native speaker, as long as you ain't ghetto, and even then, you can easily find employment both through yourself by teaching your own private students, as well as finding a part-time job with a company. Now, of course, again, I'm contradicting myself. There's always a negative to each side of the positive things I'm telling that you can do, but I'm telling you what is possible to do. I'm not saying this is going to be your situation. You might struggle to find a part-time job on your student visa, like how I technically did at some points, or you may not. It also depends on what you're expecting to be paid. Generally, part-time jobs will pay you anywhere between $9, I'm trying to speak in US terms, so anywhere between $9 to about $12, $15 max. I would say $10 is pretty much flat across the board average how much you'll get paid working part-time, which is basically minimum wage in Japan. Mind you, again, the rent in Tokyo is about $800 to $900 from what I've seen, but of course you can find places that are $600, $700. It's very rare that an apartment is going to be less than $600 in Tokyo, and from what I've personally seen, I had difficulty finding apartments in Tokyo that were less than about $800. This is not including all the move-in fees. I'm simply telling you what your monthly rent will be. And mind you, your rent does not normally include your utilities, so you also have to factor that in, which can be anything from an extra $100 to $300 a month alone, depending on how much you use. This does not include your groceries, your transportation, etc. But again, your financial aid can cover all of these things. So if you get a student loan, financial aid, whatever, use both. You can have all of these expenses covered for you. Thus, you don't need that $10,000. You can literally come to Japan with about $1,000. You can use about $400 to $500 of that to pay for your first month's rent, and the remainder of that literally to get by for the first month. So pay for your groceries and your, transportation to commute to and from school, to and from work. However, of course, this only works out if you're on your grind, you land a job right away, and your school helps you out, you get your financial aid within a month, etc. Otherwise, you will probably end up homeless, you will end up struggling. So again, I'm telling you what is possible to do. You can literally come here with $1,000 cash in your pocket. You can buy a dirt cheap airline ticket from China Air, or go to Priceline or go to TripAdvisor and find a ticket that's somewhere between $450 to about $600, and get to Japan. That's all you literally need, is about $1,000. Aside from the cash that's needed, one of the other big things that I see people ask questions a lot about is what to bring to Japan. And I want to make a separate video that talks about this, but I will kind of talk about it in this video too. You have to ask yourself, are you trying to come to Japan, or are you trying to bring America to Japan? Which one is it? Or shall I say, are you trying to live in Japan? You don't need to bring your whole fucking wardrobe, you guys. You don't need to bring all of your little figurines, your computers, etc. You can buy all of that stuff after you get here. And to be honest, trying to move everything over here is a bad idea for a few different reasons. You probably don't know if you want to stay here or not. You're probably thinking, oh, I know, my heart is set on Japan, I love it. I did that and I'm still here. I was the idiot that took that advice. But realistically, most people don't end up like me. I've seen people that have come to Japan, but both before and after me, that have left, that didn't even make it through the first year. They got tired of it, they got fed up with it, they felt homesick, they felt embarrassed, they felt like an alien, they couldn't handle it. Both black and white people. Doesn't matter what race you are, what color you are, etc. It happens. And so with that said, you might think you really want to live here and you spend all that time and all that money, studying Japanese and moving all of your stuff over here just to ultimately decide, oh, Japan is not for me, I need to go back home, I feel like I'm going to kill myself, etc. So don't spend too much time and money, buying stuff and moving stuff over here. You don't know where you want to be at, and there's not a lot of space here, so you don't want to have a ton of clothes. You don't want to have a ton of toys and figurines. You can buy that stuff for a lot cheaper here, a lot better, nicer, newer, more authentic stuff because it was actually made in Japan. Get the Japanese version of it, etc. Leave your crap at home. It'll still be there. Your parents can box it up. You can box it up. It'll be there. And when you have the money, when you have a job, when you have a bigger place, you can have them ship it and send it to you, which is what I've done. And I'm still doing it to this day. So stop trying to think so far ahead and stop being stupid. I literally hate whenever I see people comment stuff like that or ask questions like that. Or even send me emails like, oh, what should I bring? Should I bring this, etc. And it's good that you're asking and you're thinking, but it's like, dude, do you hear what you're saying? Are you trying to, bring your America to Japan, or are you trying to, enjoy being in a different country, different culture, try different food, wear different clothes, etc.? I get it if you have really big feet, you're really fat, whatever, but even then, everyone's so worried about where do you buy clothes, where do you do this, where do you do that. Have you ever considered losing weight? And beyond just losing weight, because I get it, it's not something that happens overnight. Realistically, how many of you guys really buy all of your clothes in store anyway? We do a lot of our shopping online. Why are you so against online shopping in Japan? You don't have to buy it from a company in Japan. You can buy stuff from overseas. Sure, you have to pay for that international shipping, but how often do you really buy new clothes anyway? How often do you need to buy new clothes? Probably not very often. They have plus-size stores in Japan. They do exist here, but just like in America, there's not a ton of them, and there's not a lot of variety. So that's that. All I'm saying is decide, do you really want to come to Japan, or are you trying to bring America to Japan because you want to, it's like a lot of you guys want to enjoy the cutesy fun anime side of things, and you haven't woken up and smelt the coffee yet, and you don't realize that, first of all of that stuff is going to wear off. It's nice that you like kawaii fashion, you like gothic fashion, whatever, but Japanese people don't dress or look like this. So if you feel embarrassed to do this in your home country, you're not going to get any extra encouragement here in Japan. You're going to look just as ridiculous. People will smile, say, oh, cute, take pictures, etc., but you're going to kind of stand out and look a little bit ridiculous to most people. Especially if you leave from a tourist area. You might even be seen as scary and or weird and an unemployed bum. But fine, you might say, oh, I don't care what other people think, blah, blah, blah. My point is, it's all going to get old. I love alternative fashion, I love Japanese fashion, and now I pretty much never wear it, ever. I'm always wearing athletic clothes, hip-hop, streetlight clothes, or I'm wearing my work uniform. I don't really do much of that anymore. I'm wearing something dressy. Your style will change. So this isn't so much talk about, what's going to change as far as things go with you, and all of that, but more so saying, stop trying to bring all of your stuff here. You'll save yourself a lot of time and a lot of money. All you need is you and enough toiletries to get by for a few days, because you can buy that in Japan too. Japan is a first world country, you guys. It's not some Stone Age, third world, whatever. You can literally get everything that you need here. Do not pack your bags, stuff them with crap. You don't need that. It's unnecessary. If I had to put a dollar amount on it, I wouldn't recommend coming here with less than $3,000, like absolute bare minimum, but you most certainly can survive here on $1,000, only if you have a job that you're going to get right away, you are staying in a cheap share house or something, and you have financial aid, student loans, etc. that you're expecting, through direct deposit, to come in within about 30 days, and just as an extra backup, you have at least 1 to 2 family members that can transfer money to you. Otherwise, I would not recommend doing it this way, but again, I'm telling you the cheapest, easiest, method to come to Japan, which would be on a student visa. Otherwise, if you already have a degree, you guys, you can easily get all of the stuff pretty much covered for you. There's companies that will pay for your flight and pay for your housing, etc., where you pretty much are just bringing yourself grocery money and your first month's commute, basically. So you don't have to worry so much. But for students, if you don't have a lot of money, you definitely can probably qualify for financial aid, and you can also get student loans whether you have money or not that will cover every single last dime. Of course, these do have to be paid back, so you have to think to yourself, is it worth it to spend all of this money, put myself in debt just to come to Japan? And more than likely, you're going to say yes. So in that case, go for it. That's exactly what I did, and I have no regrets. So just think about what you really want, but the reality is you don't need to have $10,000. You don't need to be able to speak any Japanese. You guys, I did not speak any Japanese when I came here. I couldn't read, I couldn't write, nothing. I'm not telling you to be stupid. A lot of you dumbasses took what I said too far. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that realistically, if you talk to people that actually live here, they will tell you that they rarely use Japanese. It's not encouraged for you to use it, and it's kind of a useless language. It can only be used in Japan. Even in Japan, people kind of lean towards English. Everyone's trying to learn English for starters. It's the language of the world. And on top of that, as a foreigner, it's assumed that it's the only language that you can speak. So your Japanese ability just impresses your friends and your coworkers that will think that you speak fluently just because you introduced yourself and said, let's be friends. Something super simple like that. I get that all the time. So I'm not telling you to not learn it or whatever, but I am saying that if you're spending all this time, money practicing it, you're not only wasting time, but you're wasting money. Instead of doing that, you could be getting together, money and stuff to actually get here. Your language ability is not going to cover your expenses in Japan, and the reality is the time that you're spending learning the language, you're taking away from time you could be spending making money. You don't want to hear the truth, so that's cool, whatever. You can make it here doing it your way too. But I'm simply saying that you're making it take longer because now your focus is on multiple places. And if you're like most people, you're going to end up spending more time and more money on one thing and less time and less money on the other. And that's what tends to happen because it's more fun and easier to learn Japanese than it is to work a job that you hate in retail and to try to save money that you don't really have for a dream that can't really be seen. So do your own thing. I can only do so much. I'm simply telling you guys that, it's definitely possible to get here with less than $10,000. I hate to contradict myself, but I'm just being real. You can easily find a job if you're a native speaker, you're young, you're attractive. It makes things super easy for you. If you live in really any kind of city, because really even in further out cities, there's less competition and there's also less jobs too, but there's significantly less competition because nobody wants to live there. So for example, I am in the Kansai area. If you want to get a job teaching in a place like Wakayama or Nara, there isn't really any competition. These teachers or these schools are desperately looking for teachers, but there aren't really enough teachers to fill these positions because nobody wants to live in Wakayama, nobody wants to live in Nara. So that is that. If you have any more questions in regards to getting to Japan cheapest, easiest way possible, feel free to leave a comment down below, send me an email. Again, I'm not recommending that you do it this way. I'm simply saying that it is definitely possible. And this is how a lot of people got here. Most people that are living in Japan did not come here with thousands of dollars in the bank. Their parents, family, whatever is not rich. And of course, the reality is most people living in Japan here are on basically fake spouse visas. They got married quickly because they had an obsession with Asian men or Asian women. They wanted to get either knocked up or knock somebody else up so they could have a mixed baby, and or because they had a fetish for Asians. Nobody wants to say that, but it's completely true. Thus, these people have no degrees, no money, no nothing. Instead, they're mooching off of their spouse. They got work through that way just by being a foreigner, and now they have their own school, whatever the case is. So that's how most people are living here. So if you're someone that has morals and you don't feel comfortable doing something sleazy like that, or you simply, aren't interested in getting married, whatever the case is, you don't like Asians, I don't care. My point is, if you want to do things the right way, so to speak, then you should definitely try to come here on a student and or work visa instead of aiming to get a spouse visa. But that is also another option to make things pretty much easy and or cheap for you. Again, it's kind of a pick your poison type situation. You can choose to work your butt off and work hard before you come to Japan so that you have the money and resources to live here comfortably. Or you can come to Japan with very little and be living in a foreign country and have to get on your grind like right away. Because if you don't, then everything that you did is going to go to waste. And now it's a lot scarier because even if you can speak Japanese, you're in a whole other country, a completely different culture, and no book, no cartoon, no anime, no drama, no friend of yours can possibly prepare you enough for that. As I've said before, I have some really embarrassing stories that I don't even feel comfortable with sharing at this point, but I will eventually, where I like practically ended up homeless, where I kind of was. I've had really bad situations here in Japan that I would not wish upon anyone, and despite all of that, I've chosen to stay here. So I hate to drag this on more, but give me a couple more minutes. That's the thing you have to keep in mind. Like, if you really have drive to come to Japan, you really know in your heart, like, I am going to live here, I'm going to die here, I'm going to work here, I'm going to study here, I'm going to get my degree here, I will learn Japanese, you will do it. But if you're not serious about Japan, you're just coming here to have a good time, you want to be a sexpat, you just want to play in La-La, Akihabara, you think that you're going to become a model by walking down the street in Shibuya, or, you know, I forgot the name of the place, Harajuku or something like that. And it's definitely possible. If that's your dream, okay, whatever, I'm not judging you. But my point is, if that's all you have in mind, you're not thinking further than that, you're going to end up going home. But for those of you that like really, really love Japan, you really, really want to be here, and it's okay to like those things too. But like I said, you have to be realistic with your love for that. I absolutely love alternative fashion. I'm a huge nerd. I love anime. I love video games. I love cosplay. I love alternative fashion. I like Japanese people. I was totally honest with you guys, like when I made my video, in case for those of you that didn't get what I was saying inside that video, I can admit that I used to have a fetish for Japanese men. I know, oh my god, did she just say that? Yes, I did. And you want to know what? I woke up and smelled the coffee after I actually dated people that were Asian before I came to Japan. My first relationship with an Asian guy was horrible. I dated him. He was never a legitimate boyfriend, but he was Korean. And as I got to know him more, it's like, oh, so basically your interest in me is beyond just hip-hop. You think that I'm a whore. So we're not going to get into that. That's a whole nother story. But my point is, I had to wake up. I had to realize that what I think Japan is not what Japan is really going to be like. These are real people. This is not anime. You know, all of the videos that I watched aren't entirely true. You have to actually live here and experience Japan for yourself to make your own, you know, form your own opinions about it. So I'm not going to get off into all of that. My point is, if you want to stay in Japan, if you want to live here, you will find a way to make it with literally nickels and dimes in your pocket, like how I did. I literally had moments where I didn't even have 10 cents in my pocket, you guys. I have literally starved here. I've gone days without having food, with just drinking water, with just drinking tea. I've gone to bed on empty stomachs. I've gone without electricity. I've gone without hot water. I've done it all. I've gone without having a bed. I've been there. This is embarrassing to share, but it's true. And you want to know what? I wanted to go home. I dealt with having pneumonia. I broke my back and I stayed in Japan. Do you think most people would stay in Japan after all of that stuff happened? I'm not exaggerating either. Every single last thing that I said happened. And I stayed because I wanted to be here. I fought to be here. I didn't let pneumonia make me go home. You know, breaking or fracturing, whatever. My coccyx, how do you pronounce that? Coccyx? That's such a weird word. Anyway, my tailbone. It was broken for 6 months. Excruciatingly painful. I had pneumonia for almost 3 months. That was not very fun. I've had strep throat several times. Japan has not necessarily been the best place for me. I've had a lot of bad experiences, run-ins with people. And I stayed here. I've had bad breakups. I went through an extreme suicidal depression, mental breakdown, whatever thing before I met my boyfriend. My life was not always fun here. But what I always did was I continued to fight. I continued to stay here. I kept my dream going. And I told myself, I'm not here, as my mom would say, for some little bean-haired boy. I'm not here to prove anything to anyone. I'm here because I love Japan. I want to prove to myself that I am not a quitter. I always give up on stuff. I always stop things whenever one person didn't like me, whenever one thing didn't go my way. Now I've had tons of things that didn't go well, tons of people that don't like me, tons of things that didn't go my way, and I chose to stay here. And it's okay if you choose to go home. That's fine too. But my point is, if you really want to stay in Japan, you will make yourself stay. You will find reasons to stay. You will fight to stay here. Even if you have no money, you can do it. You'll find a way to make money. And it doesn't necessarily have to be anything illegal, which I don't want you to do, but you will find a way. Whether it's borrowing money from someone at home or a friend in Japan or whatever the case is, you will find a way. Don't overthink things. If you want to be here, you can make it happen with no matter how little amount of money you have. Don't go based off of your current job. I used to work retail. I worked at Walmart, I worked at Starbucks, I worked at Old Navy, I worked at JCPenney, I worked everywhere. I worked at CVS. I've done all of it. I used to be a babysitter. I've been unemployed, I've been fired, I've quit. I've had it all happen. And now look at where I am now. Even since I've been in Japan, I've had bad experiences with work. So again, I'm not gonna keep going with this. I'm just gonna leave it at that. My point is, if you want to be in Japan, no matter how little money you have, no matter how, little education you have, you will find a way to make it happen. You don't have to break, the law. You don't have to do things that are immoral to stay here. You most certainly can find a way. You will. Your determination will help keep you here. I did a ton of research on visas. I did a ton of research on housing since I've been in Japan. You think you're struggling? Imagine how I feel. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but again, I'm just being real. There is no me on YouTube as of this date. There's no blogs either. When I want information, I have to go look for it. I have to go read up on it. I have to ask people. There's no channel, there's no other foreigner I can go to be like, hey, what did you do, for your visa? What did you do for this? No. I'm giving you guys free information. So you can choose to listen to me, ignore me, whatever, that's cool. But at least you have it. I wish there was a me when I was in your shoes trying to come to Japan. Everything I say is not always perfect. Everything I say will not work for everyone. But at least it gives you some insight and an idea, and in my opinion, a realistic one, of what you can and or should do to get here. So that's that. Again, I'm really sorry this went on for so long, but I hope you found this video to be useful, helpful, etc. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe if you have not already, and leave a comment down below. If you have any questions about work, school, saving money, whatever, please leave a comment or send me an email, private message, whatever you choose to do. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you will also check out another video. Goodbye.